Everyone says be different in business. But what if you're not inventing the next iPhone or disrupting an entire industry? What if you're just good at what you do? Does being different have to mean being the best in the world? Or is it something more honest, more subtle, and honestly, more easy to achieve? I made this video for those of you who, no matter what you do, never feel credentialed enough or skilled enough or different enough to stand out in a crowded industry. I also made this video for those of you who have taken traditional advice to niche down or differentiate and then had it blow up in your face because it feels so fake. Here's what I've learned after 11 years of helping service-based entrepreneurs build clear, resilient businesses. I remember working with a client, we'll call her Janet, and she was beating herself up because she was having such a hard time articulating what made her coaching different. Because you see, Janet's clients didn't come to her because she was doing something mechanistically different. Janet's clients loved her because she made them feel seen in a way that almost nobody else could. Here's what I've discovered. Roughly 80% of entrepreneurs do not have a clear or obvious or mechanical or mechanistic differentiator. And most of you are struggling because you're using tactics designed for the 20% that do. Let me explain. For 20% of you, you are naturally differentiated. Here's what that looks like. You've invented a truly unique method. Maybe you have some extremely rare credentials, or you've been through something in your life. You have this crazy personal backstory that you would not wish on your worst enemy, and it has fundamentally transformed the way you want to serve. Your work is mechanistically different. You might be the only person on the internet that does what you do with your particular exact mix of skills or credentials or the philosophy or mechanism that you've developed. This doesn't automatically mean that positioning for you is easy because your audience doesn't have an obvious framework for what it is you do. There's no job title that quite fits. Your challenge is not proving that you're good enough. Your challenge is helping your clients understand what it is you can do for them. And this means developing language, metaphors, visuals, word pictures that help take the conceptual elements of what it is you can do and associate them with concrete, familiar frameworks that your clients already understand. Your challenge is education. That's you if you're the 20%. But the rest, the 80% of you, you're not marketing something brand new. You're not inventing a category. You're not a unicorn, and you don't have to be. Because your magic isn't in your what, it's in your how. Imagine this. If we lined up 50 website designers, right? And we watch them do what they do. The steps that they follow to do their jobs would be more or less the same. Like if we were to shoot a video, what the camera would see is more or less the same. However, if you're one of those designers, your presence, your lens, your energy, your philosophy, the way you ask questions, the way you interpret the answers, that's the part that nobody else can copy. Henry Ford is rumored to have said, if I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they would have all said a faster horse. Now, he asked the question, but he applied his genius, his vision, his philosophy, and he interpreted the answer. That, my friends, is you. If clients say they love your energy, if clients say nobody makes them feel the way that you make them feel, that they can't quite explain it, but they just know you're the one for them, that, my friends, is essence-based differentiation. And that's what your premium clients are buying, even if they don't have the words to express it. Here's the 80-20 truth about differentiation. Spending your energy trying to invent a fake, unique method is not only counterproductive, it's exhausting. Because most signature offers are just the same old thing with a bunch of lipstick and a wig slapped on. It's not fooling your clients, and frankly, it probably isn't fooling even you. Most marketing gurus will tell you to invent a name for your process. Slap a shiny new label on a generic offer. Make it sound new, even if it isn't. And that strategy, doesn't it make you a little bit defensive? Like now you have to prove your worth instead of just owning what you know you can do really well? What I've noticed happens in these situations is that people end up discounting. They end up people pleasing. They take on work even if they're not amazing at it. They take on work that isn't their zone of genius because they're not 100% sure what they do, so they feel like they have to do all the things. They get trapped in scarcity thinking. This tension creates low-grade friction that ends up wearing out both the client and you. Instead, I invite you to really spend some energy in identifying and owning your 20%. your zone of genius, what makes you actually different. Let's talk about how to differentiate. You don't need a gimmick. You don't need something fake. You need to recognize what makes you powerful. And you need to demonstrate this essence in both your marketing and your sales process. Now, what would that look like? I have a much more detailed 29-minute video if this is something you want to nerd out on, and you can find that totally free at messagingthatmakesmoney.com. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to give you something that you can use right away, and I call it asking spotlight questions. What's a spotlight question? It's a question that changes the way somebody frames what we're talking about. And it is the opposite of the kind of question you've probably been taught to ask, which is an open-ended question. I'm not saying that you need only one kind of question and not the other. Actually, open-ended questions and spotlight questions play really beautifully when you use them together. Allow me to demonstrate. Let's say you're a divorce coach. You're going to start by asking an open-ended question. It might be something like, tell me what you're feeling about your ongoing divorce. How are you feeling? It's going to pull out a whole bunch of information and get it all on the table. But what this question automatically does is it puts you in that essence. You're now listening, feeling, you've got that essence in play. You're in your zone of genius. And what's going to happen is you're going to gather information, but mostly what you're helping your client do is process and co-regulate. This is a very important part of the process because spotlight questions deal with the intellect and open-ended questions often deal with emotions, and both are absolutely necessary when making a decision. Now, when you ask that question, the client might go off on a tirade. They'd be like, my husband cheated on me and it's with this woman who has less sex appeal than a rotten kumquat. You might say, I understand, I hear you, but that's a story. Tell me more about how you're feeling. What's the emotion? And you might have to go through a few rounds of this as the client sort of calms themselves down. And we're talking about high emotion situations, which with divorce coaching is probably usually the case. Once they name their emotion, now they're in a position where their lizard brain has been calmed down. You're in nervous system co-regulation. Now they can start to think about what's in their best interests. Now is when you ask a spotlight question. And you might ask something like, what is the one thing that you want from this divorce that makes your life better moving forward in every way? You'll notice it is a leading question. It is not an open-ended question. It actually forces the client to think about the situation in a very particular way. And what it's doing is it's framing it in such a way that they're likely to pick what is in their own best interest. This helps define a scope of work. And this is so important, especially in the case of something like divorce that gets really emotional and really messy. It helps you know what the core priority is when during the course of the work, things come up and trade-offs have to happen. So for example, if you ask the question, what is the one thing you want to get out of this divorce? And the client says, I want to make sure that I have full custody of my kids. That becomes the priority. And now you can barter with other assets and other resources, knowing that that is what needs to be protected. To further drive this home, let's take a totally different example. Let's say you're a website designer. Instead of asking your client, what features or pages do you want on your website? You could say, if an ideal client visits your website, what is the one emotion you want them to feel? Notice how this question has elevated the conversation from features directly to business transformation. So hopefully now you can see how open-ended questions help create connection and feel your client out, but spotlight questions help get to the heart of the matter and define scope of work. Both keep you playing in your zone of genius. And I can hear you asking, but Geeta, this is all well and good. I can totally see myself using these questions on a sales call. But what do I do to actually make clients want to book the sales call? Because that's where I'm stuck. I hear you. Think about it. If you have a really good sense of what your essence is like, and if you have a good sense of how these conversations are likely to go, then you can easily shoot with your camera cell phone. You can shoot a video where you basically play both yourself and the client having one of these conversations. It's super fun to do, it's creative, it's interesting to watch, and it's easy. And it communicates essence. On this channel, I focus on principles that stay stable over time instead of tactics that change all the time. And if you've liked this content, I invite you to subscribe, like, and share. And if you're tired of trying to be the next shiny object in a marketplace that already has ADD, then you might want to check out messagingthatmakesmoney.com, where I have a 29-minute deep dive training video on exactly how to position yourself and how to communicate your essence. You'll know if it resonates and if it's for you. And if you like the way I think, you will love my newsletter. It's called the 80/20 Entrepreneur, and it's built for entrepreneurs in midlife like me, who really want to do meaningful work without compromising ethics while juggling all of life's demands that are constantly increasing at this age. Remember, at this stage of the journey, you do not need to reinvent your business. You just need to reconnect with the part of you that already makes you invaluable. And that, my friends, is the 80-20 approach to differentiation. It is less performance and more presence. And ironically, that's exactly what makes you impossible to copy. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.